So this is my video. I'm going to talk about the Etruscans, and the Trojans, and my prediction that both of these two ancient people have something connected with each other. I'm not going to say that I think the Trojan and the Etruscans are the same people, but I think it's some kind of connection between them in a way, and specifically with the sea people to that end. So if we go right to year around 1200 to 1100 BC, there was a famine and an uprising in the Mediterranean Sea and in today's Turkey. So the big powers, there was the new Hittites, the Egyptians, the Mycenaeans, and some more. But this is the big powers before we come to the Greek unification of the Greeks, before the Persian Empire, before the Assyrians, the new Assyrian, Ashurbanipal, and all this kind of thing. We have the Hittites, as I said before, we have the Mycenaeans, and we have the Trojans, and the Trojan was allied with the Hittites. And the Trojan and the Hittites were both in today's Turkey. Sometimes the Trojan sent some of their armies to the Hittites to help them in different wars. And from the mixture of that period of Troy, we say around 1300, before the 1200, the culture mixed with the Hittites and their local culture. The only thing is the difficulty for me to say, because I'm not an expert in the Trojan, the real Trojans. I know more about the Hittites than I know about the Trojan. Obviously the Hittites are very complex, very complicated history, because they have different time periods, like every human history have, every culture have, sorry. But the interesting thing here is with the Trojan. When I talk about the Trojan, I don't mean Helen of Troy, I don't mean this kind of, I mean the real Trojan. I mean the people, the common people, the kings, the elite, all this kind of thing. Is that I think when we think about Troy, we always think about Troy from the eyes of the Greeks, from the eyes of the Mycenaeans. So we never see the Trojans from who they really are. Most of our information of the Trojans is from mythology, from the story of Homer, but Homer lives much later on in that time period. But we never get a depiction. We never read a text what the Trojans have written down before they have attacked from the sea people, from the sea people. The sea people the real name should be for them, should be the rebels, because the sea people are a very, very stupid name. Why I say the sea people are a stupid name is because it's like you call the Vikings the sea raiders, because just because you use a boat or a ship do not mean that you are from the sea. You just live close to the sea with your ship. Like every culture, like the Haida, the Phoenicians, the Vikings, the Northmen, and the sea people, all of them that is connected with ships or boats. only one of them that is called the sea people or the sea people. No of the other culture that use ship. We can go further. The Polynesians, people, the Maoris, all of the culture that use ships or boats in human history for raiding, for trading, for hunting, none of the others have nothing to name with sea to the name. So what I mean with this is that the federation or attacking each other, the different groups of these people that the Egyptians call the sea people, or in modern time we still call the sea people, have less in common with the sea as they have common with it on the land. So it's just a negative connotation to that people, and that also makes it more complicated to learn more about them in modern time, because of we get so much. The first information is obviously from the ancient time, the Egyptians, then later on from Homer, and so on and so on and so on. So we never get their view on the picture. So we never get the picture from the sea people, that group of different people that try to come to Egypt, or have been in Egypt, or have been as servants under the Hittites, or servant under the Trojans kingdom. So here is why the point here with the Etruscans is that the Racine is that Etruscans, I think, my personal opinion, I think the people that serve under the Trojans as their mercenaries, after some, they have been long time serving them, I don't know how many years, but something happened. So the people, one of the group, the Etruscans, and some other groups have enough of the discrimination of the Trojan, I think, and then they rise up. They attack the palaces and all this, the places where all the elite lives, the elites. Then they go back to their homeland. They come back to Italy, to some part of Italy, Tuscany, other places in Italy. They mixed the new learning culture from the Trojan. They have learned all these years serving under them with the Villanova culture, because the Etruscans have a different language than the Roman or the other tribal people in Italy at that time, from year 900, from all the way to like around 300, 400, 300. That was the time when Etruscans is very if you look also about how Etruscan art from different time period, different places, you can see some similarities in some ways with the Etruscans, with the Assyrians and other Middle Eastern cultures, but also with obviously also with the Phoenicians because of trading. So you have trading and inspiration from each other, and so on. So one of this group that served under the Trojan, that rise up later against them, I think was later on going to be the Etruscans, and so on. So this is just one, because the Federation, the sea people are many different people from different places around, from Mediterranean and so on. And so all of this is, I think it's very interesting, because because of when you look at to look at ancient history, what you start to look at from the modern view, from ancient history, you start to see some problems. You get some problems are much harder to identify right from the start, and other problems are easier. Some in the middle. But when we look at names that empires called other people, gives a very problematic. For example, the most classic most thing is like the Celts and the Germanic people. The problem with this is that when Julius Caesar, I don't know exactly the year, but when Julius Caesar come to France, to Gaul, after he had defeated Vercingetorix, I think it was year 56 BC. I probably say wrong here, but something around that time. Probably totally wrong there. But after that, when the Romans have occupied France, Gaul, they get a message from some of the group, the Gauls, that was later on allied with the Romans, need help against the new groups of people, the Alemanis. And that is just one group of people that have a different from the what the Roman called the Celts, but they also have similar traits with the Celts. Different, like all people that meet each other obviously learn from each other with different customs and this kind of thing. So with the Alemanis, and then obviously the first of the Germanic people, no, all of them are not from Germania, from Germany. Some of them are from Hungary, from Romania. I think the Ostrogoths are from Romania, and later on, obviously, they come to the Roman Empire because the Ostrogoths are attacked from the Huns, and obviously the Ostrogoths also have connection with the Iranian people, learn from their costume, because the Goths and Ostrogoths have connection. First, obviously, in Romania, you have the Dacians, and the Dacians sometimes works or fight against the Sarmatians, and Sarmatians are a Iranian nomadic federation, but we don't want to talk about the nomadic people now because it's going to be extremely complicated when we do that, because every nomadic culture also very different from each other. It's very different from, like, example, the Sarmatians and their culture and their guards from the Mongolians, or and from the Huns. So anyways, so the point here with this is that when a big empire, the Persians or the Romans or the Chinese, gives a name to a group of people, they give everybody from Germania, just to find just because if you unify a newcomer, I call them to be the new enemy, because Julius Caesar obviously wants to fight because they want to have more money and more pride, because that is the big point of a dictator or a senate in the Roman Empire, is to the more victories you get in wars, the more popularity. And because Julius Caesar wants to turn the whole system upside down, because he wants to be the ruler, So he was the precursor of what you call emperor, because the first official emperor in the Roman imperialism was Augustus, and Julius Caesar's adopted son. I think he was, yeah. Yeah. So different name to different people do not really explain who they are. The same if you call people like Indians, you don't want to explain who they are, because if you look at how different costume and cultures the different groups have around the world that people call Indians. For example, you have the Aztecs, then you have the Inca, and to make it more complicated, then you have lots of different kingdoms before the Incas in Peru, or people before the Aztecs in Mexico, that have believe in totally different gods. You understand how different, and some of them just live in this, like the Mochi also live in Peru, and then you have other groups in Peru that have totally different god, totally different art style. So if you look at Mochi art style, the Mochi, and you look at Inca art style, and then you look at different period of the Mochi and different period of the Inca, you're gonna start with. Do you understand what I mean? Do you understand? It's a very, 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 very complex culture of different people in one country, in one land, and that is just one of them, just one country, one. We have not even named people from North America. We have not even named the Haida, the Kalinget, other groups there. We haven't even named them and their culture. You understand what I mean? It's like you call. It's like that. It's like you say. Yeah. How can I say? How can I give a good comparison with when people call Indian? Like, it's like you call. Okay, this may be stupid comparisons, but it's like you say like Germanic people in modern time. So every time you read a book, okay, I want a book about Germanic art in Germanic people in modern art from the like 17th century or 16th century. Okay, do you mean the French? Do you mean the Belgian? Do you mean the Germany? Do you mean people from Switzerland? Do you mean people from Spain? Okay. Do you know that sometimes people on Spain was occupied of the Moors from North Africa? Many similar cultural aspects from Morocco. Do you understand what I mean? The whole thing to call one group Indians is like me saying Germanic people, but some of them are not Germanic, some of them have nothing to do with Germania because they are from France, or England. They have totally different culture. They have totally in that time, totally different custom. Obviously, they believe in all of these lands. In that time was Christian, obviously, but even that are different because there are also different types of Christianity in these countries, and also different art style to the churches. The church. Yeah, this is my point here, is that is simplifying different people to try to push them in one big box and put like a stamp on that box and say Indians. It's just you don't even understand their culture when you say that thing, because you take away so many different culture trait and different belief system around the world. Because if a conquistador was first in Peru. Then he go all the way to Brazil. Then he go from Brazil, he go to today's Canada and meet the different people there. He don't gonna come back to his king in Spain and say all of them are the same. I think reason why we call them Indians, that is a very stupid name, is because of Columbus' stupid mistake. Because Columbus' whole point was go to India. So from there he called, because he was totally an idiot. So he think that when he was not even in America, he was in Caribbean, and I'm super sorry now because I don't remember exactly the name of the island, but he was somewhere there, and he meets the Tainos and the Arawaks. You understand what I mean here? You name a group of people from a wrong continent, from a wrong country. This is why I think it's stupid. It's like me I'm gonna go to Cambodia, and before even people know about Cambodia, and I sail there with a big ship. But my point was to go to Japan. So when I think I was in Japan, I was in Cambodia, and I called the people in Cambodia the Japanese. You understand what I mean? It's like, and then later on, even in modern time, we still use that same name, even if they are totally different, separated countries, far from each other with different culture. Yeah, that's this what I mean with this is that you simplify a people when you call them all the same name. The same with Celts, the same with when you call them people, the Indians, the same when you call people from that time, from Germania, all this kind of thing. Because they have different culture, specifically at around that time. Because a culture that is similar time period in Guatemala at the time of the Macedonians, or they have big stone heads, round stone head. They use lots of rubber from the rubber tree. I'm totally forget their name now, but they are not. There's not the Olmecs, because the Olmecs are in Mexico, so there's maybe also, I'm not okay. Anyways, so this is very interesting. If you look at the culture around the world at a similar time period, you can say that all of these different customs, they live around the world. It's interesting how much they develop from what they have in their countries, because if you think about it, all of humanity, from the whole round globe, the big world, have learned from what they have. Like you have the clothing system of people from Hallstatt culture, and you have the clothing system from people of the Mochi culture, but they also evolved of the learning from different people, because that is the reason for example, we can say, talk about China, for example. You have different connections, for example, all the way through, all the way to the Han Dynasty, for example. You have connection with the Xiongnu, And before the Han dynasty, you have the Qing dynasty, a very short-lived empire, but was a long time a kingdom. Around the warring state, like from 400 to 200 BC. So all of these connections with China, and then you have the much later on, like around year 600 to 900, you have the Tang dynasty, and the Tang dynasty have lots of connection with people from Korea, Japan, Iran, Turkey, trading connection, all these kind of people from Tibetan kingdom. And Tibetan kingdom was very different from Tibet is before the Tibet. Right now, as you know, Tibet is under occupation of China. I know Chinese people get very angry when you say that, because that is just the truth. Tibet. The Chinese have occupied Tibet, so Tibet is under occupation, similar to Israel have occupied the Palestinians, all this kind of thing. So that is just the truth. This is not saying anything negative. That's just the truth. So if you look back at year 700 or 800 at Tibet, you can see more similarity with Tibet warrior culture with the Mongol, with Genghis Khan's kingdom. So Tibet was very much a warrior culture at that time, and obviously the Tang and the Tibet fight each other, but they also trade with each other, different like costume, culture, and different things. So I think you can learn so much about human history. It's like, if you like history, you're gonna never get tired, because it exists so many different things around the world. You can just, I think, if you start reading about one country, like for example, you learn about Inca history from the beginning, from the first beginning of them to the end of them, and that is just one empire. Then you have all of the other kingdoms before them, the Moche and the Nazca, and much more, and learn about all of them. You're never gonna leave the ancient Peruvian history. You're gonna read from your young all the way to your old man or old woman. You are still not gonna be finished. You understand? It's never gonna end. It's so much new things when the archaeology dig up from the ground, find new things. So you're never gonna. It's like a road that never ends. You're gonna walk for in all of eternity. So if you like history, you're gonna stay a long time in history, because human history never ends. It's like from my time now in 2022 to like 200 years later from now, people or other groups of things gonna probably read about us, how we use in our history. If you think about it, like, if history always still continue on, history never stops. So modern history for us are the history we're living in, not right now, are gonna be ancient history. If you look at 2,000 years from now, gonna be ancient history for the new people, the new living things. Yeah,